everyone up, and I'm gonna talk more in my presentation. Yeah. So I'm gonna talk about mobile first Indonesia. Indonesia is very interesting because, and I'm gonna start with the quote here. The future is here, it's just not. So I'm going to start with this quote because we believe that the future is here, but unfortunately the future is not evenly distributed. We're talking about this cell phone. A Samsung, a Galaxy 6, or your iPhone. And you know what? This Samsung and Galaxy 4, this small thing is more powerful and way smarter than a supercomputer in the 80s. Whole library, rows and rows of books. You can have now access all those information again at the palm of your hands. Information is very easily accessible, and broadband and mobile is the way to go. If you can see in 2014 right now for 3G and 4G we have about 39%, but in 2020 it's going to be 69%. Right now, smartphone is 2.6 billion in 2014, but in 2020 it's going to be 5.9 billion. Even right now, the world population is about 6.5 billion. So we can roughly say that almost for every 2%, 1% will have a cell phone and a smartphone in it, not just a cell phone. Data traffic is going to grow tenfold between 2014 and 2019. And you know what? It's all powered by Asia Pacific. Now let's see Indonesia. This is where we are. We have about 60 million smartphone users. In terms of who uses smartphone, it's about 37% female, 63% male. This is going to change very quickly. As there will be more applications that's more women-friendly, and there are more applications that will be beneficial for women. How do Indonesian internet user access the internet? 85% is actually through mobile. So ladies and gentlemen, the future is mobile, and the future is here. But of course, it's not evenly distributed, like I said before. And if you look at it, 60% of our population age 18 to 35%, which is the most active user of internet, they're actually accessing through smartphone. We can also say that with the 10% of 3G growth, the per capita GDP is actually increasing by 15%. Mobile adoptions raised by 10% would increase long-run productivity by 4.2%. And even more interesting, for every $10, and $10 would buy you like what? Lunch? Drop in smartphones, that would increase for about 100,000 new smartphone users. And we know from the old generations that have this brick Alcatel, brick Siemens phone. Now, cell phone is very, very small. What does it mean? That means we'll have much, much more mobile-enabled innovations. People would seek to find health services delivery, money services, mobile education, including the farmers in far-flung Indonesia, talking about agricultural price measurement, crisis management, employment search, voters education, and many, many more. This is a typical Indonesian SME. And as you can see, Gapura is one of our programs focusing on SME. Over the course of 2 years and in 11 cities, including Eastern Indonesia all the way to Makassar and also Denpasar, Indonesian SMEs already realizing the importance of technology and the importance of doubling or even tripling their productions and expanding their business using technology. All the sessions are always full. All the sessions are always jam-packed with really, really good questions. which means, this Indonesian SMB is now ready to take their present business, the now business, into the future business. Flappy Bird. Another examples of how mobile can actually revolutionize things. Nguyen is a simple programmer from Vietnam. He made 50,000 US dollar a day because Flappy Bird was downloaded and trending in Google Play for 7 months, and it was a top seller. He quit for a little bit due to exhaustion, so I guess there are limits. But at the same time, now he's back in business and he's even building his business even more. But what do we have here? This is a changing world, and this is a super changing world for policymakers. A lot of our policymakers are still living in the analog world. And it is this changing reality is hard for them as well. We need to sympathize with them. They started where, right now, mobile is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And authorities, through financing infrastructure, they cannot see financing infrastructure like financing infrastructure for road. The service charges are different. It's not like financing infrastructure for electricity. So they're also grappling with the new reality. And at the same time, especially in Indonesia, where SMEs is actually a big base of our economy, SME owners are already realizing and wanting to invest on their business transformation, whereas the infrastructures and the capacity of the policymaker is not yet there. So we have 3 big buckets point on how government can actually help expedite economic growth, as what we have as a team here, and their service delivery to people using technology. First of all, they need to focus on connectivity. Invest more in infrastructure, open access to spectrum and backhaul. My colleague Ruben will speak more on that aspect. Simplify regulations on equipment, devices, and services for operators. Operators are key. If they're happy and they can invest more, there will be more technology, more apps that can be built. We also suggesting that a release of transparent roadmaps, which I think Pak Ilham Habibie and his team is working with DeTIKNas. Content and services. The future is all about data, and data is all about content and service. We say information is king, but information with good content is King Kong. So it's even bigger than a king. So content and services, a good one would enabling app development and protect freedom of speech. It would enabling crowdsourcing for local language content. The more applications is built in the local language content, the better it is. And for Indonesia, most people would click on the applications that have a local language. So that shows that if you, for Indonesian local apps developer, not knowing English is not a big deal if your target audience is Indonesia, because Indonesia would choose you. But you have to have a good UX, you have to have a good UI, and it needs to be easily operated. The government is also start working on opening data use, and I hope they continue to do that, as well as reduce regulations on the app ecosystem. The last is job and skills. This is the most important thing where government can actually be very helpful. Invest in education and skill boosting. It takes forever, and it takes a village to actually build stream of workers and stream of experts that is that easily working and comfortable working in technology. We work with several of our partner NGO for voters education, and we helped them a lot to make sure that their API is working properly, and it was a heavy investment, both from the time perspective and both from the energy perspective, especially for our NGO partner. But they were very enthusiastic, and it was just heartwarming to see how enthusiastic they are and how great the program has become because of their help. Government also needs to incentivize more traditional businesses to get online. Again, licensing, I think we heard this again and again in each of the buckets. Licensing, licensing, licensing. The simpler, the better. One of the characteristic of the analog world is that regulate, regulate, regulate. Whereas the keyword for digital world is less regulation. The simpler, the better. The United States and Mr. Ambassador, feel free to correct me if I'm actually making a mistake on this. But to the best of my understanding, the United States and other economy in the world, their apps economy as well as the technology companies are growing a lot faster than there are less regulation. So I think if Indonesia really want to seize the future, less regulation and simple ones are actually a lot better. How are we going to get more startups in Indonesia? Reduce excessive penalties on failure. So when you become bankrupt, you're not being punished again and again. So that would be opening up the cultures of failing is okay, as long as you can get up again and try again. Trying out your ideas is fine. And that is the beginning of having a good startup ecosystem. And be open-minded about new business model. And of course, this is very hard. The change is very rapid, oftentimes in a speed that they don't comprehend. But if you're open-minded about new business model, like sharing economy, for example, then you can find a way of, a win-win solution. And I would like to end my presentations by saying that Indonesia apps developers are actually at the beginning stage of being great. We have a lot of super talented raw talent, but raw talent will continue being raw talent if it's not being developed. And development for apps developer and development for startups going through several stages, and that would be coming from bootcamp, hackathon, and others. I'm gonna close with a video, Mas Benny, that would show how awesome Indonesian apps developers is, and especially how useful it is for staff that would require better government delivery. Silakan, Mas. This is from our Hack for Impact nonprofit hackathon working with Jakarta.
Untuk apps yang non-komersial, tapi justru memberikan manfaat untuk banyak masyarakat.
Hackathon ini sangat bermanfaat buat Pemprov DKI Jakarta karena kita ingin melibatkan semua pihak untuk bisa membangun kota ini menjadi kota yang cerdas. Aplikasi yang bagus menurut saya dari sisi penggunaannya, ya, itu saja dari sisi tampilan, tapi terutama dari sisi penggunaan sehari-hari.
Antara pemerintah dan developer lokal, dan itu pasti semuanya untuk kepentingan masyarakat, apalagi teknologi sekarang udah makin maju banget. Ini adalah awal yang baik dan mudah-mudahan kedepannya bisa menghasilkan aplikasi yang berguna.
Senang hadir di acara ini karena pengen perbaiki masalah dengan alat transportasi umum. Seringlah diadakan acara-acara kayak gini biar developer-developer bisa bikin aplikasi yang lebih baik lagi.
Acara itu sangat bermanfaat banget buat